Welcome to the Expat Edge with Marcus and Matt, where we answer your questions about becoming an expat to help you thrive abroad. Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. In this video, we want to talk about life as an expat in Russia in 2022. Matt, there's been so many things that's been changing since the end of February, March. You know, all these Western countries initiating sanctions against Russia. And I think there are a lot of unanswered questions, what life is like in Russia as an expat. So let's go through some of those things and some examples.
Okay, sure. So I think probably the number one impact that people are going to face when going to Russia is that none of your foreign issued MasterCard and Visa card, credit card or debit cards are going to work within Russia. So you can't go to Russia with a US debit card and try to get money out of the ATM. It just won't work. The other side of the coin is that all Russian cards will not work outside of Russia. So I actually have kind of funny story. I'm trying to figure out a place to meet up with my in-laws this summer. They couldn't buy any plane tickets on any of the airline websites at all. You have to go through this third party travel agent in Russia that takes their own commission to be able to buy the tickets using any Russian Visa or Visa or MasterCard. Really, really frustrating stuff. So I can imagine the other side of the coin is if I were to go to Russia, I can't buy anything with any of my cards within Russia. So you just have to be ready for that. And in addition to that, also SWIFT transfers from most banks are blocked. Marcus, you have a little bit more experience with this than I do, but any of the big Russian banks, it's basically impossible to send or receive money. There are some exceptions. I think Tinkoff, I don't know if that's still an exception, but at one point it was an exception that you could still transfer via SWIFT internationally to Tinkoff bank accounts.
In general, everything's just a mess because people they relied on these traditional ways to send money to and from Russia and around the world, and it was by the click of a button in an app, like through things like even PayPal. They take larger amount of more fees than other newcomers like TransferWise or Wise as they're called. I use Wise all the time to send rubles. People can't do that anymore, or Western Union doesn't even work. So if you're going to Russia, you'll need to really you can take a look at the link below in the description. I'll link to a post that we posted for Let's Russia about sending money. A lot of people are turning to non-traditional ways, which is trading with other people and cryptocurrency. And the banks that do accept SWIFT transfers, you're going to get a very bad rate because the volatility of
I was just going to say another thing. A lot of people expect to take $10,000 in cash in US dollars to Russia. It may be easy to buy rubles at what rate? I mean, it depends on the day. But then if you want to buy dollars back, it's practically impossible, especially at a good rate. So there's lots of headaches. I mean, this it seems like, if I'm living in Russia, I'll just have rubles, blah, blah, blah. But there are going to be times you want to send money back to the US or to any country. It's going to be impossible. It's just dealing with the headache all the time. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, it's interesting because you never even thought about it really until this situation, and it's become almost like you look online for days and days just for a method to get money. You're not even questioning the rate anymore. You're just like, how do I send money? So it's anyway. Check out the link in the description for more. It's not ideal, but it will give you some pointers. Another issue is just traveling to Russia.
I was going to bring it up.
In and out of Russia.
Impossible, practically. Yeah.
So you can't travel through Europe. Any flight to the US, Canada would go through Frankfurt, Helsinki, Munich, Berlin, Where else? Amsterdam was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all that airspace is blocked. You can't. You have to go through.
So there are no European airlines flying to Russia. Number one, no Russian airlines can use European airspace. So that effectively limits all of the flights. The only airlines that are seemingly reliable are Air Serbia. Again, it's going to be quite expensive. Turkish Airlines. I've been looking everywhere. It's over $3,000 for one person to fly Turkish Airlines to Moscow from the U.S. So, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Because in normal times it was under $1,000. Now it's over $3,000. And Emirates is one of the only other options that you can use. Again, that's over $3,000 or $4,000 for an economy seat. Not first class, not business class. $4,000 for an economy seat. So there's just really no way. I even started looking at the day my wife wants to go visit her parents for New Year's. It's not even possible. I'm not paying $3,000 to go to Russia per person. I started thinking, oh well, we could just fly to Helsinki and take the train. No, that's not even an option anymore. You can't even take maybe there's a bus. I don't know, from Helsinki. I don't know if you know this, Marcus.
You can't. Okay, yeah. So what people are actually doing? So you highlighted the cities and the airlines. People are needing to pay those prices or take long trips going through across the border. So let's say you have a tourist visa, business visa. If you don't have family members in Russia, or you don't have residency, then you can leave Russia. Like, you can go on a bus from St. Petersburg to Helsinki, but you can't go back unless you have residency or family in Russia, and you have to prove that you have family in Russia.
You're certain that having family in Russia will allow you to take a bus back into Russia?
Yes. People are being asked for marriage certificates, birth certificates to establish that. So obviously Russians can go back and forth, right, if they have a visa to Finland or something. But so expats living in Russia who haven't left, and they still need to make visa runs to renew their visa or something. By the way, visas are being issued. It's just you can't freely travel like you did before. So what else? So you can go by bus, or you can go through several cities by plane.
Yeah, but I mean the prices, like I said, are astronomical. I mean, $3,500 on Turkish Airlines from the U.S. anytime this summer or into the fall. I mean, that's a crazy price. Also, one thing I want to mention quick. If you actually go on Google Flights and you search, it will actually I was looking at December, for example, it will actually let you buy tickets through Frankfurt. But I would caution against doing that because doesn't seem likely that airspace will open up anytime soon. So just be careful. If you're buying flights, you might end up buying flights that, the airlines want to try to sell tickets in case they go. But if they don't, then you might end up with no flight and have to pay at the last minute for some incredibly expensive flight. So be careful buying any European flights that seem to be available.
Obviously, we both have family in Russia. You mentioned visiting your in-laws. My mother-in-law, we wanted to have her come, or we both met in Turkey. Our family,
we're going to Dubai.
Went to Turkey, and then she went to Turkey. And even like purchasing a ticket for her for my mother-in-law if we look on Aeroflot, I had to use a VPN because the aeroflot.com site is blocked. So these are things that everyday tasks that you could easily do. Just get online, and now you have to study how to use a VPN. And a lot of people in Russia are going back to the banking thing, in order to get if they find a way to get funds to Russia. In order to get funds to Russia from their bank, they have to log in through a VPN, and some VPNs in Russia are blocked. So it really does mess with those daily simple things.
I tried to buy tickets for my in-laws on Emirates, to Dubai, and I tried to log in with a VPN to try to get a Russian site that maybe the card would work if it loaded a Russian site. It just doesn't work. You can't buy Emirates tickets with a Russian debit card. But at the same time, the only
Yeah.
VPNs that I could find that had a Russian server still, because most VPNs have now gotten rid of their Russian servers, it was incredibly slow. I don't know what your experience was, Marcus, but it was so slow trying to load using a Russian VPN. So I don't know. It's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
I have no desire, honestly, to deal with all of this. I mean, it's literally everything. Even things as simple as gaming. I know Steam is not working, which is like a PC gaming service. There's issues with that.
Right.
So just, I mean, you have to be aware that that's the reality of the situation, like it or not.
Yeah, there's so many different companies that just said we're not going to service Russian customers. I mean, it's ridiculous because normal people are, using these services, and I don't know, Netflix and obviously that's not a necessary service, but there was one that I recently read about. Can't remember what it was. Canva. Like, let's say you're a freelancer and you're doing freelance design.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in Russia are freelance workers for companies abroad, and Canva won't work anymore.
Yeah.
So it really puts a damper in a lot of those day-to-day things. And depending on your situation, maybe you have funds in Russia, and you're not really. Let me put it this way: a lot of expats in Russia have everything in Russia, so they have their apartment, their banks, and they don't. Maybe they travel once a year out of Russia or something like that. So for those types of people who have ties, family ties, and everything is rooted in Russia, it's probably not a big deal. But for expats coming and going and getting their funds from abroad, it's really tough.
Right. Well, I think it's obviously a complicated issue because on one hand, I mean, the Russian government is, telling everyone that we don't need any of these Western companies, which I think is kind of laughable, because now all of these Russian planes, they can't even fix them because you can't get parts. Sorry, not Russian planes, but foreign planes, because there are no good Russian planes.
Right.
And again, them shutting off all of these servers like Canva, for example, they just decided it's not worth dealing with the hassle. And at the same time, the Russian government is telling people, oh, well, we'll just, we'll do this import zamещение, which is like import substitution, which is clearly not, Russia's not capable of,
they can only do it so far.
Right. So it's not one side or the other, in my opinion. It's very much both sides. The West in some ways is being ridiculous and hurting only individual people. But on the other hand, Russia's made it incredibly difficult for those Western companies to stay there with some of the laws that they've enacted. So, look, I have no blame.
One of the things that really caught my attention when this all started, I'm very positive. I have been very positive when it comes to Russia, and I have lots of friends and family members there. When they announced possibly freezing foreigners' assets, or people from unfriendly countries cannot own real estate or buy real estate, or those who have it already, they can't sell it, or there were some major changes. And I'm thinking, well, if you were an expat and you had your whole life was kind of rooted in Russia, and your apartment was in your name or your house or something, like, what are you supposed to think? How safe is it to keep those assets in Russia? And if you have to sell them, then the ruble, the rate would be terrible, so you'd lose tons on that transaction. So that was kind of the deal breaker for me.
Right. Well, again, that's kind of what I was saying, is that, the West doesn't care about the average Russian, but the Russian government definitely doesn't care about the average expat. So I think a lot of expats live in Russia with rose-colored glasses that, they're kind of disillusioned with the West, in many cases rightfully so, but at the same time, do you really believe that the Russian government has your best interests at heart? That is incredibly hard for me to believe. So, I think no government is looking out for you, and to be naive thinking that you're better off with the Russian government is just stupid, in my opinion. Again, that's no defense of the West.
I would say that in general, my kind of outlook is, I don't want to be dependent on the government, and nobody should, right? So, at least for basic necessities, right? So, when I'm talking about, is Russia a good place for or is any place a good place for an expat? I look at it very from that perspective. Like, you have your own funds coming in. You're not reliant on state support or the government, or you have something going for you where you don't have to rely on. Because a lot of expats, obviously, they don't going to Russia. A lot of people just live on their visas, so they don't have access to any of those things. So they're kind of like separated from anything that the government would potentially, be how they would be in their lives or something.
Well, I think we're not even just talking about government services for expats, right? We're just talking about the overall situation and environment. Is it expat friendly? And I think the answer for Russia right now is no. It is incredibly uncertain and unfriendly for most Western nationalities.
Matt, you mentioned that it's unfriendly to foreigners. I wouldn't say that the locals are unfriendly to foreigners, right? We should make that clear that Russia in general is a pretty, foreigners, expats are going about their daily lives and not having issues there. Right. And also, I wanted to mention that another positive thing that if you're going to Russia, or if you're in Russia doing English teaching, your competition is much less than before, right? A lot of foreigners have left. Yeah. So a lot of schools and English teaching jobs are there for the taking, pretty much, because of the situation. So there are opportunities in Russia, but I think they just are outweighed.
I would be careful calling it an opportunity, maybe. In the English teaching world, I think it's definitely potentially an opportunity, if we want to call it that. Maybe just easier to get a job. But I think in most other professions, anything that's not directly connected to you speaking English, I think there's not going to be a whole lot of opportunities for jobs. So, for example, like the job I did when I was in Russia,
Yeah, I was just going to say, hear me out. I agree with you. However, there's kind of a double-edged sword here. All of the foreign companies, lots of foreign companies have left Russia, and there are opportunities there. But the caveat is that some of these sanctions don't allow a U.S. citizen, Canadian citizen, or you have to, look at these situations where they don't even allow you to invest in a Russian business anymore, even if there were an opportunity. So it really depends on your situation, but I would say, of course, that for the most part, it's just not a good place right now.
Right. So
to thrive as an expat, as we say.
Right. So we hope that was kind of helpful. If you've got specific questions, we can answer those in another video.
We just want to shed light on specific things in Russia, what's going on, and how that affects life in Russia as an expat.
Right. So let us know in the comments what you thought of the video. We're happy to answer any other questions. I hope to see you in the next episode of the Expat Edge. This was the Expat Edge with Matt and Marcus. We hope you enjoyed the video. Visit theexpatedge.com for even more content that will help you thrive abroad. You can submit your ideas for video topics and sign up for free at theexpatedge.com. See you there.